Okay, good evening, Rabbi. Zera Shimshon Shiur is sponsored by Berger in honor of his brother's yahrzeit, which will be Wednesday, the 17th of Av. The Zecher Nishmas, the small Chaim Ben, Rav Shlomo Yitzchak Olav Hashalom. How much should have an aliyah? The source of the Zera Shimshon and Shimshon Chaim Ben Nachman Chol should assist all of us for all that we need. Hagefen, Hatzocha, Gezun, Parnosa, Nachas. We're going to do Parshas V'Eschanon, letter Daf Shin Ches Yudalit. Page Shin Ches in your Zera Shimshon, letter Yudalit, which begins with the Medrash Yalkut Anachamu Nachamu Ami. Parshas V'Eschanon is always Parshas Nacham. What is the kesher between V'Eschanon and Nacham? Can't just be that it happened in Mikre. It happened by chance that Shabbos Nacham comes out V'Eschanon every year. Just to be a cheshbon for that. We'll try to see. I'll be the Zera Shimshon, Beis Hashem, the kesher to the Indian.
It is.
The Barm is always chazon. Okay, so that would mean that it just falls into it without any specific connection.
Had to be together for it to.
Exactly. So V'Eschanon is always Nachamu. Nachamu, Ami Yoimar Lekeichem. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, "Be consoled." Nachamu. A lashon, a double lashon. Rabbi say, a double lashon. Nachamu. What is the double vayinochem? What's this double lashon of Nacham? Al pasuk Nachamu, the Zera Shimshon quotes a Medrash Yalkut. Let's read the Medrash. Kedarkenu by Kodesh. We always read a pisala from the Medrash. The Medrash says like this. Nachmua El Yoinim, it's a Nechama for the El Yoinim, and Nachmua Tachtoinim, for those down below. Nachmua Chaim, it's a Nechama for those who are Chaim, alive. Nachmua Meisim, for those who passed away. Nachmua Ba'olam Hazeh, and Nachmua La'olam Haba. Nachmua for this world and for the future world. Nachmua shall Aseres Hashvatim, the 10 Shvatim, which Be'ezus Hashem, according to one Shita, will come back. Nachmua al Shevet Yehuda and Binyamin. This is the Medrash of Nachamu. It continues. Says the Medrash. Why does it say Tu Nechamis? Because Chet Chota Yerushalayim. Al Kain Lenida Hayasa. Chet Chata, their Chet was a double Chet. Since the Chet was double, so therefore the Nechama also has to be double. Chet Chata, Loksa Bechiflaim, Shenema Ki Loksa Miyad Hashem Kiflaim Kelechol Chatoseha, Nisnachm Bechiflaim, Shenemu Nachmu, Ami Adkan L'Shoyna. The sin was double, the Nechama is double. Hiksha Zera Berger asks the Zera Shimshon B'Shem, one of the Mefarshim back in his time. You're saying that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying you sin this much. This is the amount, and then plus some more. If it's a sin, then it's a sin. How do you go ahead and measure sins exactly? Is it the same sin? Is it a different sin? What does it mean, bikiflaim? Did we do the same thing twice?
I'm saying you always have sins, right? You always have sins that are worse and sins that are not, right? Some can be support, some don't. There's those levels.
Correct. But you can say a person, like the Gemara says, a person eats one thing and does 8 things wrong. It's not that you did kefel the sin. It means you did this wrong and you did that wrong. Kefel, it's like when a person steals, so then we make him pay kefel. So if you want to say they did 2 sins, so say they did 2 sins. What's the lashon of kiflayim? What does that mean? Where's the kiflayim? If it's true, therefore they're being punished for that reason. Like it says, so we know that the lashon chet is a lashon of shoygid. When a person does an avain or does a pesha, like a pshia, that's referring to a sin that's more severe. A more severe sin is a sin that's a pshia, an avain, a chatos, comes for shoygid. Person sins b'mezid. Do you bring a carbon for mezid? No. You only bring a carbon for a shoygid. So a chet usually describes a shgaga. That's why it's called a chatos. The chatos meloshen chet. So frektzach kasha. So the kasha is a very simple kasha. If it's chet chata, that means that they did something doubly mistakenly sinful. It was a shoygig upon a shoygig. For a double shoygig, so therefore you go ahead and send them away. If it would say pesha pashua, they did a double pesha, ovain upon ovain, fashteich. I understand. Let's see it inside. Ask the Zera Shimshon. If it's a double sin where they're so bad, so to speak, that we have to be pushed away, so then should it be a lashon of chatos? Sends us away for such a thing. The Chazal say, if you're a shoygig, can you then be perfect? We all make mistakes. We're so not perfect. So for being a shoygig, for being a shoygig, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is merachem and moichel ala shoygagos. Such a bad. We're so sent away and we're so categorized as being like a nida. V'oy im adin hoya noisen shahoyo shechatu b'chiflayim yilku b'chiflayim im kain ein adin noisen sheisnachamu b'chiflayim. Let me ask you a very basic question, says the Zera Shimshon, which is, when a person does something wrong, and if be'emes they do something wrong, and be'emes magia lehem, because not they did it once, they did it twice. Maybe we'll call it getting caught with your hand in the cookie jar, that you really did something bad. So what's this double nechama? Get your punishment. I'm going to have to be menachem you afterwards. If I'm being menachem you, means I have to appease you. I have to appease you because the law yita kol kach ra. Oh, shani tzarich lenachem. Oh, tzarich la'anish. Tov meir, toda. Oh, that. As kibalta zeu, but yeah, kilo appeasing means to say kilo. I have to like ask you to forgive me almost. I have to be menachem. You have to come likrat chaf.
So what specific chet are we talking about? Exactly.
We'll get there. Oh, that's what we're going to see. What this chet. The whole sugya tonight is to learn about the chet, the novel concept that the Zera Shimshon, which is called the sin of letting your guard down. That's what we're going to learn tonight. I'll give it away a little bit. The sin of letting your guard down.
That's a shogig?
That's a shogig.
Yes.
The sin of squandering away a major advantage. We'll get there. We'll get there. But we're still in the Zera Shimshon's kashas. We're still coming to the pshat. Zog der azoy. One more time. If the pshat haka is that because they were so We were so bad, we deserve to be punished. On the one hand, it's mashma that we got double nechama because we were loka overboard. To make them to make peace, right? But so then why would you look at Shalokadin? What's going on? What, like you just said, what did they do wrong exactly that requires that we say it's a double sin? And if it is a sin, then why even nachem them? The teretz is as follows. It says in the Mishnah in Perkei Avos, this week's parak. It says, "Have a rotz." Let's have a siddur for a second. Get a siddur with a Perkei Avos. Imef Sham. Let's see it inside. Wait, wrong building. Just one. Just one. Ben Azai Yomer, have a rotz the mitzvah kala. Run to a mitzvah kala, to a easy mitzvah. Ubayreach minu ha'avela. She mitzvah gereris mitzvah, va'avera gereris avera. She schar mitzvah, mitzvah schar avera avera. Run towards a mitzvah, le mitzvah kala. Ubayreach minu ha'avela. Says the Mefarshim. Why doesn't it, the Mishnah, be consistent? Ratz li mitzvah ubayreach me'avera. What does it mean? Ki'ilu ratz, right? Li mitzvah ubayreach sha'ilay ubarach the inkein bol lirmois sha'adam yesh loy tamid lehispached. A person should be careful that he should never find himself in a situation where he could yavoy l'dechet. In other words, if a person has yiras chet, a person is scared of messing up in his relationship with the Rabbi Shalom, a person, it would make sense, would try to avoid situations that he'll get in trouble with. You don't want to give fintzach. You always tell your kids, you don't want them going someplace where afterwards they're going to ask, what were you doing there? Or to be with chevra that afterwards they'll question, why were you surrounded by them? Or having something upon you or having something with you that afterwards the cops will say, what are you doing with that? Says the Zera Shimshon. Yesh lo oy tamid lispachet shpen yavoy lidechet b'shoygig. A person should be concerned that he shouldn't come to the madreg of doing a chet even b'shoygig. V'yesh lo lachshiv tamid b'machshava zu k'dei lihizar. Umi she'ena oisekein. If a person is not careful that way, rather ela mitrashel, which means that the person is just very lackadaisical. Lahachin atzmai v'pachad zeh v'soiver, and he thinks, no, she'afim yipo b'chet lo yela shoygig b'shkiyaz miyavin v'lo yela einish, relies on the fact that fuskenzana zoy geferlach, it'll be okay. I'll go to the beach and I won't wear my glasses. The Changunish is saying, don't worry about it. I won't see anything. Right? We'll go just sit out the side by the pool. I won't see anything. Right? I'll make sure to look at my Gemuda. It'll be okay. Right? Don't worry about it. So I go to say there. Right? Then a person says that. That's considered you're entering a situation where it's like a bol litaher nisai, you know, you say habol litameh. If chas v'sholem, a person looks for a way, or is not careful of keeping up his guard, he's lowering his guard, then siyua elyoino, the siyata dishmaya that a person usually gets, that a person has a malach, a person has siyata dishmaya, that a Kadosh Baruch Hu protects him, and with the lack of siyata dishmaya, bevada yenechshol bechet, a person will chalila then come to succumb to a sin. Zok the Zera Shimshon. Before a person chalila does a chet, even a shoydig dik a chet, every yid has to know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is there to help and be Messiah. What do we say in the morning? We say a little tefillah. We ask the Rabbi Shalom, right? He should save us, right? Shaloi lidei al tivienu loy lidei chet, v'loy lidei verba avain, v'loy lidei nisoyain, v'loy lidei bizoyain. We ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We say right at the end of brachas, right? And we say the Rabbi Shalom. It's a special prayer. Rabbi Shalom, please. The Yetzer Hara is so strong. Help me not come to this situation. And Avada, when it's a heartfelt tefillah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu answers. Avada he does. What would you consider a person who puts himself into the situation where he removes HaKadosh Baruch Hu's protection? It isn't mamish like he's doing a sin, but you can't also say that he's naki mitesha either, because he hasn't sinned yet, but he's doing something that the protection that he has, he's removing. It's like if a person goes into the war, he's got a vest, right? A bulletproof vest, and he takes off the vest. It's Meshuggah. You have something to protect you. Don't remove your bulletproof vest. Says the Zera Shimshon, Elavadai Tzorach, we'll go to the next page. Tzorach Loimar, the Mari Hochi is talking about the Zrizus, Uba Oisai Pachad, Sheyesh Loi, La Odom, Lios Tomid, B'machshavtoi. The Zrizus, that like it says in the Mesilas Yesharim, that a person should be zoriz and have a certain zrizus, like the Mishnah talk is a zoriz or mitzvah kala. He wants to learn the pshat. The mitzvah kala means to say it's the things that a person can do to prepare himself that he can be zoicha to the siyata deshmaya, loy lidei nisoyen, loy lidei chet, loy lidei aveira, loy lidei ovay. Preparing oneself, even b'shoygig, to b'shum chet. The zuhi mitzvah kala she'adam dosh ba'akeva. Lefi shebayteach ba'atzmoi shelo yovay l'dei chet. If a person gets what we call in a little bit, in English, we call he's like a little bit cocky. He like gets a little bit like a little bit too self-confident. Don't worry about it. Abba, I'll go. You ever said there? Don't worry. I can go over there to whatever. I won't talk to the maid. I'll be okay. Say the kiknish. Right? I'm good. It's good. What you're doing is, I'll help you. Oh, you don't want my help? And then the yipo b'chet. And then it'll be chayta. That's the kefo. That's the kefo. That's the pshat in the kefo. That's the loka b'chiflai. It's not so much that you do two sins. It's that you're ma'afsher and allow this person to become vulnerable so that he can fall into the sin. Go down. Umat. Why is that a shogig and not a pesha problem? Because you're not. The shogig is because he's not really doing a sin yet. He's really not doing a sin yet, right? He's not going out to be chayta. He has a false sense of confidence. Let's go down the bottom paragraph. It says when a person does a sin, he'll end up doing it again and again. Mayor, how do we explain hitrashlut? Hitrashlut, the person is new. What's the good Hebrew word? What's it? Hitrashlut. How do we explain? What's that? Lax. Muznach. Hitrashlut. What's that? He's lazy. He's mitra. Shaloi lizor koidem achet harishon. Shebishvil ze nikra boy letome. Avdu asiyo elyon bezen nikra chet echad. That's called the first chet. Va'achaka kishenoflu bechet harishon. He did the first thing wrong, which is really, in a certain sense, the second thing. Nikra shechatu bechiflayim. That's the double. The fishin is stalik hasiyua v'akedusha mehem v'adrab nivku bechet u'mishum haki loko bechiflayim shenedainu ala pigam she'osa b'abeira atzmai. First of all, the abeira that he did. V'achakach nichbulu aleim ha'isur mishum de'isra mazilayu. What you astakahat kutte mazel? You were a bar mazel. You know why a good mazel? Because you're a yid. And who doesn't have good mazel? Hashem will help you to keep you away. Like the Gemara says, when a person, an animal, gores another animal, it's not a raya that he can gore a person. Gemara and Baba Kama. Why? Because Adam Islay Mazlay. A person has a special mazel. But if a person doesn't use his majesty, the Gemara in Shabbos Kufnun Beis, the Gemara says, when a person acts chalila like an animal, his own lower part of his body takes control of himself. So then the animals see him as one of their own. The Gemara says they only start up with a human being when the tselem elokim goes away. Umayrachem vechitchem, you and your fear will be on others. So when a person is engaged with his own siyata deshmaya, when you're using your own siyata deshmaya, your own mazel, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is there to protect you. But as soon as a person lowers his guard, so he loses that special mazel. Once he loses that special mazel, he no longer has the wherewithal of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to be misayeh him in his own personal struggle. Nofel b'chet zakiflay. That's the concept of the kiflayim, of how you let yourself get into a situation that you now ended up getting into. And you didn't do it on purpose. You weren't chayt on purpose yet. See, you didn't do it on purpose, but it was you squandered the lead you had. You're going into the third quarter. You're up by 20, and you let the whole thing get away. And now afterwards you end up losing. And then afterwards you're chayt. Uma'ato kishbo hanovi lenachamom nachmom bechiflay. When the novi comes to be menachem, then betchilo omer kimola tzva. Then first it says kimola tzva, which means to say your time has come. It's already time to be menachem. Ki nirtzo avoino, says the Zera Shimshon. מתחיל דהיינו שהגיע הזמן שהקדוש ברוך הוא רוצה לגאולם אף שאינם רואים, כמו שהבטיח גם בזויס ביוסף בארץ אויביהם, לא מאסתם, לא גאלתם לך, לא יסיעסכם, הקדוש ברוך הוא says, I won't wipe you out. ומשום הוכי כומר חית חוטא על כן לנידו היוסו, לפי. Even though שעובדו מהם סיוע אליון ונקרא נידו, nida means you're separate from your husband, HaKadosh Baruch Hu nisrachek mehem omnam. Just like a nida, after a while, it's paisik. She has a hefsik, no more tumah, and she's able to be mitay herself. And naturally, the tumah goes away. It stops. La'achar she'avu yemei nidasa. Va'af im lo'tirtza hi l'tar lebala. Bala yochel l'chayfa she'titava v'titar. Has to go to the mikvah. That's it. Time is up. It's time to get back together. But maybe they're ready to become Torah, but they don't deserve the good grace of Hashem. The Zui Nechama Rishayna, Shakadosh Baruch Hu Moichel Miktzas Averos. V'Omar, and he says, Shekavi Yochel, who had Goyrim, Hoyel Shepasach Lema Pesach Litameh. Kadosh Baruch Hu says, you know what the Nechama is? I understand you weren't interested in my protection, and therefore I pulled away from you. Had I not pulled away from you, you never would have sinned. Had a meaning, how even if you wouldn't have been interested in my protection, but I would have protected you anyway, then your taka wouldn't have sinned. So I'm going to take a little responsibility. Nachama, I want you to be clear. The first chait is that we're not looking for Hashem's protection. You know what happens? Hashem pulls back his protection. He pulls back his protection. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, but if I wouldn't have pulled back my protection, you wouldn't have been chaytus. I'm going to take some of the responsibility upon myself. That's the nechama that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us. Our susceptibility to sin was because HaKadosh Baruch Hu was masking to be meirid his shmira from Klal Yisrael. Shohayalu pasach k'may shapirtza. And therefore HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, now ba'achikach hoisav ki lokcha miyad v'zuay nechama shniya shavisha kol tzadik yesh lo ezer elyon li'notza miyetzor hara. The tzib, like it says, Tzayfa Russia wants to kill a tzaddik. Hashem lo yazven. V'chein b'balei tshuva. Hashivenu Hashem elecha. And then v'nashuva. You'll bring us v'nashuva. You'll cause there should be a double tshuva. V'shum hochi amar ki locha. Kishem she'onsham b'shvil she'garmu she'istala kasyua elyon. Kachuyim likel schar outside atoid. Shegoyim she is gabru hasiyua machmas eserusa matoid. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives them the siyata deshmaya, gives us the siyata deshmaya. She was able to be zoicha, to be able to get back. Whereas when we have charata, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is nachamu, to take away our sin, and then nachmu to give us back the siyata deshmaya. And I want to conclude with the concept of Tu B'Av and Shabbos Parshas V'Eschana. In a few days, we're having Tu B'Av. What is such a big deal about Tu B'Av? Was the wood, 5 things state in the Gemara.
Because we got punished and now we're ready to heal.
Why taka? Farvos. So you know the first good thing that happened on Tu B'Av? Rashi says in Chumash, no Tachnun also. Rashi in Chumash states that Klal Yisrael had a minig every year on Leil Tisha B'Av. Thousands and thousands of Yidden on Erev Tisha B'Av dug graves in the desert. Hundreds of thousands of Yidden went to lay down. They literally, like they say in English, dug their own graves. And they all went to lay down. Came the morning, there were those who got up and those who didn't get up. This happened year after year after year. On the 40th year, they all dug graves again, whoever was left. And when the morning came and everybody got up and they walked around as they would do every single year and see who stayed in the ground, every single hole in the ground was empty. Every person had got up. It was the first time in 40 years that happened. It was the first time that every single person got out of the grave. They thought maybe we miscalculated the date. Maybe we got into the hole too early. So they left the graves open and went in the next night, and the following night, and the following night. until they came to the 14th. That night, they went in, and by this time, the moon was full. And they said, obviously, after night, after night, after night, it's not shayach. That means that we're no longer dying. Says the Lashon of the Rambam in Pirush HaMishnayos, the last Pirush HaMishnah in Mesechtes Tainis. Ubacharu b'yoyim chamisha asar ba'ov. Lefi, based on this day, on the 15th, when they came to the realization that they're no longer dying, that means we can go to Israel. We can go to Eretz Yisrael. It's time to move forward. Nistalka magefa memesa mitna b'shnas harboy. The miso went away. Sharei hoisaharba b'chol tishabov ub'shnas achroin nistalka v'imtinu ad chatzei chodesh. Like I just said, they waited till the 15th of the month. Ve'oz, says the Rambam, Batchu benafsham veheminu ba'atzmam. Batchu benafsham, which means that they believed in themselves. Ba'atzmam veheminu ve'gishay rotzon habayra. They're back on HaKadosh Baruch Hu's good side. It's the Yom Tov of Bitachon Atzmi. It's the Yom Tov, Tu B'Av is the Yom Tov that HaKadosh Baruch Hu believes in you. You should have self-confidence. You can come back from your biggest mistakes. Tu B'Av is the Yom Tov of Bitchu Benafsham veheminu be'atzmam. Sha'akadosh Baruch Hu yirotza behem. V'hashavas apoy v'silach chamosoi mehem. Ukvar lo vil shoinish kan shlech tzvadim. We're back on Hashem's good side. On Tu B'Av, Moshe Rabbeinu started to daven. If you look in the Pnei Yehoshua, in Brachas, the Pnei Yehoshua makes the most unbelievable calculation. The Pnei Yehoshua writes, Ve'es Chanan is gematria 515. Chazal say 515 prayers Moshe Rabbeinu asked HaKadosh Baruch Hu to go to Eretz Yisrael. Kinyan Tefillah. Tefillah is 550. Shira is 550. Shira. Shin Yid Raish Hai is 515. Tefillah. Tav Pei Yud Lamed Hey. Right? 550. Right? Tefillah. Eschanan, 550. Moshe Rabbeinu, the maximum amount of prayer. Says the Pnei Yehoshua, Fangun machachesh drai mulatu, 3 times a day, from Tu B'Av to ask to go to Eretz Yisrael. 515 prayers will end up on Zayin Adar. Zayin Adar. You know what happened on Zayin Adar? Moshe Rabbeinu was told by Hashem, Al Toisav Daber Alai Daber Hazeh. Gimmick. Once Moshe Rabbeinu said, I can't daven for Eretz Yisrael to go in, I can't live anymore. There's no reason for me to live.
515
from Tu B'Av. You can look up the Pnei Yehoshua. 3 tefillas a day. From Tu B'Av. From the day that it says over here in the Rambam, he saw that Klal Yisrael gate Shanarayin in Eretz Yisrael. I also want to go already. It's time to go. If they're going, maybe HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to forgive me. So he started davening. Now is when he started. He davened day after day after day for this. He did what would be called, if you see, daven v'es chanan, which is 515, that the maximum amount of tefillah that you can daven on something. That's what it means. 3 times a day. Taseh cheshbon from Tu B'Av.
What do you mean maximum?
Because the word tefillah.
I know, I get that part, but
No, the gematria of tefillah is 515. That means that all aspects of tefillah, every pitchivka, every way you can have. What's that? One more time, then he would have said yes. But if the Berger said, I'll place it now.
He takes up Shabbos.
Yes, he takes out Shabbos. Yeah, I'm giving you the Maramukim, Kensaranki. You can look into it. I have to leave over something for you to do. Kiminion, you know the simon, it's late. Page 32. Late. At that angle, like the ganze hearts and their Kiminion late. The brachas that planet base. And then when he did Beis Chanan, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, I'm sorry, Moshe Rabbeinu, no more. Moshe said, Moshe Rabbeinu said, Lama Lichai. Chab said, take my neshama. No, then take me away. So the day of Tu B'Av, Bruchas
Lamed Beis.
Bruchas Lamed Beis. So Lelamdeinu, Nachamu and V'Eschan. I asked, what's the kesher between the two? Because V'Eschanen Alekim Ba'yoy Ba'Eis Hazeh V'Eschan HaKadosh Moshe Rabbeinu says, I started davening Be'esahi. Why Be'esahi? What day was Be'esahi? Tu B'Av. Tu B'Av. V'Eschanen is always before Tu B'Av. That week comes because that's when I started my prayer. I started my prayer because I saw the Nechama. I saw HaKadosh Baruch Hu was ready to move on, and Klal Yisrael was been forgiven, and there was already Nechama and the mistakes and the Siyata Deshmaya that we lost. We got back our Siyata Deshmaya. We were back from the Chet Kiflai, and we got back the Nechama, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to protect us. We're going to get Sicha, and we're going to get Oig, and we're going to get all these places. So it's good. Moshe Rabbeinu said, me too. I also want to go into Eretz Yisrael. And he davened, and he davened, and he davened. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, I'll place the Daber alive at the Barazeh. Said, Moshe Rabbeinu, if I can't go to Eretz Yisrael, that's it. Then bury me over here. I'm not davening. He ended his life with handing over to Klal Yisrael what it means to daven. What it means to daven. He ended his life. His life ended. Torah tziva lanu Moshe. Mevesim that Moshe Rabbeinu gave us the Torah. But the Olam doesn't have. He also gave us tefillah. Moshe Rabbeinu taught Klal Yisrael daven. Moshe Rabbeinu taught Klal Yisrael how to be miskasher to the Rabbeinu Shalom, the derech shel tefillah. And with that, once he finished the Torah and he finished tefillah, then Moshe Rabbeinu went back up to Shema. That all started on Tu B'Av. Why? Because Tu B'Av is the day that a person can start being, like the Rambam says, Bitchu b'nafsham v'heminu ba'atzmam. It's the Yom Tov that a person can be batuach with himself, can have the self-confidence to know HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves you. Hashem loves you. And with that, we're taka chayik, and therefore we make shidduchim, and therefore we don't say tachna, therefore we start taking the wood to go to the mizbeach, and all the good zaka that happens on Tu B'Av out, and the whole chodesh, which was a chodesh that's not good mazel for Klal Yisrael, which Av is always mishanichnas of memat and b'simcha. Tu B'Av. Now already you can be Sameach. Now it's already a man of Simcha. Now you can make Simchas and Taka Kein Yel